You are now entering the Sypnotix. I'm Alex, and we have the Galaxy Z Flip 3 I am going to be reviewing today. I've had this in my pocket for more than a month now. In this video, you're going to hear me talk about how this phone has evolved, how it's changed from previous generations and other flip phones that I've been reviewing in the past couple years. And basically, if you haven't seen the Z Flip video, the original review, hit that button there or check the description. I'm going to link it everywhere for the first generation Z Flip because I go in depth about that form factor and it might help you in your purchase decision. But this is a hugely refined phone and I'm going to jump into it right now. So if you have any thoughts and comments, leave it in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you guys, and hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel a lot if you like seeing videos like this. But let's jump into the video right now. This might not be the phone that we look back on in 10 years and say that it was a step forward in the evolution of smartphone design, but I would say that the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 is a very important release for Samsung. To say that third time's the charm would be a good way to actually look at how the Z Flip 3 actually is. This flipping form factor is no longer such a radical, crazy idea. Thus, a cheaper starting MSRP at exactly $999. This folding phone is actually cheaper than the non-folding Apple iPhone 13 Pro Max. With that new starting price, buyers can now choose between a wacky design or pure performance at the same price tag. And I'm willing to bet many consumers will actually look in the direction of that wacky phone. There's no denying it. The Z Flip 3 has matured dramatically this year. It may not look that much different form factor wise, but this does feel on a whole nother level when compared to the first generation Z Flip. While that phone was interesting to use, part of me did feel a little bit nervous about the sustainability of the device with constant usage. I don't feel that way at all about the Z Flip 3. The rougher cut and finish of the frame inspires a bit more confidence when holding this expensive phone naked. The original Z Flip was a bit too smooth on my fingers for me to hold it confidently. While the Z Flip 3 is also made of glass everywhere you touch, the frame no longer has that rounded feeling. That's not to say that I don't still use a case with the Z Flip, the new one, because I absolutely do. And I do recommend that all of you guys buying this phone do as well. I'm just more impressed with the things Samsung has done to make this a better overall experience. Even the official OEM cases this year have implemented added functionality to benefit the Z Flip form factor. It's a very thoughtful year of advancements from the Korean giant. This advancement carries over with the front secondary Super AMOLED display that functions as a notification hub so that the phone won't need to be flipped open all the time. This new, larger 1.9-inch touchscreen has corrected a previously weak design point from previous iterations of this phone. This 2021 model actually has a responsive and usable secondary display, unlike the tiny sliver in the first generation model. I've been utilizing this to set timers, glance at my notifications to determine whether they need to be addressed or not, and most importantly, to check the time. Samsung has also implemented animated wallpaper customization here so that each phone has a distinct personality behind it based on their users' tastes. I love what Samsung has done on the outside of the clamshell this year, and I applaud them for this redesign. I don't necessarily need to run full apps on the front display like how Motorola Razr 5G is capable of doing, but I do believe Samsung has found a good medium between useful functionality and that minimalistic design when it comes to this part of the form factor. Another thing improved on the Z Flip that can now run laps around the Razr 5G in previous versions of this phone are the camera results. Even with just dual 12-megapixel cameras, the Z Flip 3 has impressed me as an overall solid shooter. When it comes to landscape shots in well-source-lit environments, you can absolutely have moments where you're just impressed by the delivery of the photos, especially from this AI. The digital bokeh has seriously come a long way since when companies first started trying to emulate a DSLR image. This phone is able to pick and distinguish pieces of the background interweaved with pieces of the foreground to determine what should be in focus and what part shouldn't be in focus. Like, phones that cost even more than this one are plagued with horrible digital bokeh at like much less stressful environments. Take a look at this Leaf Fine Wall corner I took a picture of at Getty. Of course, it still isn't perfect, but I'm plenty impressed with what it already does. Pictures in good lighting are well detailed and exhibit the Samsung way of processing colors we've all grown accustomed to when using their devices. The phone picks up what to expose properly in the right scenarios, and I'm just generally left with good photos on the first attempt. Low light, however, is a bit of a mess though. The camera's push ISO rather high as the Z Flip 3 doesn't really have good automatic aperture control from what I can tell. There are many phones out there right now that perform significantly better in low lit scenarios. That basically makes this phone a wash because I think half of the performance is surprisingly great, yet the other half is surprisingly bad. If you don't shoot as many pictures at, say, like a hipster restaurant with low lighting or a coffee shop, and do most of your camera snapping on hikes, then like the Z Flip 3 can deliver really well in that situation. Samsung has also delivered with performance this year. Unlike the first generation phone with an already outdated processor at launch, the highest end Qualcomm chipset at the release date was incorporated into the phone. The Snapdragon 888, 8GB of RAM, and 128GB of storage is plenty enough to keep the Z Flip 3 pushing through the most intensive workflows that basically any modern app can summon. I haven't had any issues with performance other than the fact that the phone can't stay on because big apps consume way too much of the battery. Highly intensive mobile games play well on the Z Flip 3, except that you can't really play them as the battery drains ridiculously quickly. Like, I had fun playing Marvel Revolution for a bit until I saw red. I had fun with Last Day on Earth for a bit until I saw 5%. Even with just workflow usage without gaming, the 3,300 mAh battery can't keep up with me. I can squeeze out about like 12 hours off of the plug and get like roughly 3 hours of screen on time. Like, keep in mind, this is all with modified usage without streaming videos or playing any type of video games. Like, it's pretty rough here. I have to change my lifestyle to match this phone. This is unfortunately a really weak phone in the battery life department. And luckily though, if you have a Qi charger, you can plop the Z Flip 3 onto one throughout the day to keep the life bar kind of flowing. And I talked about the awkwardness of the Qi charging with many chargers due to the folded form factor not hitting the right spot in my full review of the original Z Flip. That still applies here because it's essentially the same form factor. It's fair to say that the folding 6.7-inch Super AMOLED display sacrifices longevity for function, and whether that function is worth the battery life is debatable, but there is no debating that the 1080 by 2640p display is a marvel to look at. Yes, the crease is still there, but I am amazed at just how much better feeling the screen this year is compared to last year's. And I feel like I'm operating a regular glass phone screen found on normal phones. Like, I was keenly aware that something felt different on my fingertips during the first time around with the Z Flip, the original one. And that was even more evident when I used the Moto Razr 5G because that's a completely different display type. The Z Flip 3 just feels on another level. This is what I like to see when it comes to technological improvements. Samsung says that the screen this year is more durable and now IPX8 certified for water resistance, and that's a pretty impressive feat for a phone designed with originally with a gap in the display and the crease just a couple generations ago. We were talking about that before. It just feels like a brand new phone now, a much better built phone. And everything else about the viewing experience is distinctly Samsung. There's no way you can miss Samsung's distinct AMOLED flair, and the Z Flip 3, even with its folding screen, honors that quality. We even have up to 120Hz refresh rate for ultra smooth navigation through Android 11 that runs on their One UI skin. I really don't have anything negative to say about the display. It works for me. And I know some people dislike certain aspects that come as a result of a folding screen. But none of those things have really ever bothered me on any folding device I've used to date, so that's on me. But if you are bothered by these creases, then this might not be the phone for you. I found myself rather enjoying my use of the Z Flip 3, and for the first time ever, I didn't feel like I was using anything special. I didn't feel like I was using anything distinctive. I didn't feel like I had a weird phone in my pocket. And while it's still too bulky sitting in my pant pocket, just like the first generation one, this just felt like a normal smartphone to me during my month of using this as my daily driver. And that's a huge, huge win to Samsung, as this is no longer a gimmick, at least not to me. This is normalized to me now, and I didn't feel this way about the Z Flip. I didn't feel this way about the Razr 5G after using them for the same amount of time. I couldn't wait to go back to a regular candy bar phone and get that one out of my pocket. Something changed this time around, and I can absolutely pinpoint it. I already talked about where they changed. Samsung really did analyze what was working and what was not, and improved all of it regardless. If an OEM wants to push a new form factor, this is the way to do it. And I give Samsung a lot of credit for this product that they rolled out this year, and I'm truly looking forward to seeing where they continue to take it.
So the other day, I was on a Zoom call at work, and I just dropped everything I was saying, and I told them, subscribe.